My mom literally called the sheriff department the day before because he was stalking her. She even showed them that the PTO that she was granted for life Wednesday from the divorce, and they did nothing. Had they had someone walked out with her, like, her friend asked, she would still be here.
Crystal Evans did everything by the book, y'all. She built the paper trail. She got the divorce finalized, and she got a permanent protective order same morning. Both 2 days later, she was gone. This channel is called Crime of Love because the person you let closest is usually the one holding whatever ends up hurting you. If you're new here, hey, welcome. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We've got a whole community of women over here who don't flinch and don't look away from the hard parts. And baby, this story has a lot of hard parts. Tom Mallory was not just some angry ex-husband nursing a bruised ego, and he was not some misunderstood man caught up in one bad decision. This man was living an entire second life and paying for it, allegedly, with money that was never his to spend, money that came straight out of the business his own wife helped build. Crystal found out, and once she did, this man's whole image, the doting husband, the hometown boy everybody liked, none of that survived what came next. She never stopped talking about it, right up until the day that got her killed. Crystal Evans grew up right there in Griffin, Georgia, and she built her whole career in real estate, one closing at a time, no handouts, just hustle. Her daughter, Precious, says her mama never met a stranger in her life, and she loved on her cats like they were her own children. She and Tom went back to childhood, decades of history between them, long before there was ever a wedding ring or a business or a daughter named Precious in the picture. 20-some years married to a man she'd known her whole life, and still, somehow, she didn't know the half of what he was doing behind her back. 2 days before she died, Crystal wasn't hiding out scared in her house. She was planning a party. Now let's talk about Tom, because baby, we have got to talk about Tom. 20 years Crystal knew this man. Childhood friends turned husband and wife, the kind of history that's supposed to mean you know somebody down to the bone. She did not know this man, not even close. Behind closed doors, Tom Mallory was living an entire second life with multiple men, all while Crystal was at home holding down their business and raising their daughter. Let's sit with that one for a second, and not gently either, because it's outrageous. This wasn't just something Crystal said in the heat of an argument either. Her own daughter later put it in a sworn court statement on the record as part of the divorce filing. So whatever you want to call this man, do not call him misunderstood.
Goddamn saying. Like I said, nigga, you can't do that. No, you can't do that shit. Because you know why? Because you're a bottom nigga.
You so stupid.
That's why you can't goddamn do it. You're a bottom
It's
nigga.
cool when I get out there, just have that energy.
Roo. And here's the part that took this from betrayal straight into theft, y'all. Crystal said this man was funding that whole secret life with money out of the business. Her business, the one she ran, the one she built her name on. There was a company truck branded and everything sitting there as proof of the business they supposedly ran together. And somehow that same truck kept turning up in pictures it had absolutely no business being in. Pictures that had nothing to do with a single job site anywhere. Girl. Now I need y'all to understand something. This isn't a story about who Tom loved. Love your business. Love whoever you want to love. Nobody's got a problem with that. This is a story about a liar. A grown man who took his wife's hard work, her name, her business, and used every bit of it to fund a life he was hiding from her. And then let her carry the weight of running that business while he was out spending his money on somebody else entirely. That's not a man going through something. That's a coward and a thief. wearing a wedding ring as a costume. Sir, Crystal found out anyway, because Crystal always found out. She started posting, she started talking, she brought receipts, screenshots, recordings, all of it straight to Facebook for the whole town to see. Now, see, that is a very particular kind of humiliation, getting exposed by your own wife on the same app your cousins use to sell plate lunches and prom dresses. People in Griffin were talking, y'all. Neighbors, church folks, people who known both of them since they were kids, all of them watching this unfold in real time, one post at a time, like it was must-see television nobody could look away from. Once she did that, this man's whole image, the doting husband, the hometown boy, everybody liked, all of it was finished, and everybody in that town knew exactly who he really was. He did not take that well. And that is where the real story starts. Okay, so let's talk about 2019, because this is where you really see who Tom was, y'all. And it is not subtle. Tom fired a gun outside Crystal's home, a literal gunshot right outside where she lived. And then, get this, he called 911 himself to report an active shooter on his own property where he was the shooter. Now, I want y'all to sit here with me for 1 second and think about the nerve it takes to pull a trigger and then call the police yourself, pretending to be the scared one. That is not panic. That is strategy. That is a man who already knew exactly how to work a system that was not going to hold him accountable anyway. Crystal later said in her own petition that the responding deputy told her something she never forgot, that he had nearly wrecked his own car rushing out there because he already believed the next call to that house was going to end with her in a body bag. A deputy said that. Not a stranger on the internet, a deputy with a badge who had already seen enough. Lord. The sheriff's own department later confirmed there had been multiple domestic violence calls to that house over the years. Sometimes Crystal said he hit her or pulled a gun on her. Sometimes he said she got angry and came at him. One time he actually got arrested. He posted bond the same day. Then there's the cat. Yes, the cat, y'all. Stay with me. According to a sworn statement Precious later gave in court, Tom took Crystal's cat. And when the family tried to get it back, he pulled a gun on them. Over a cat. Her daughter called him, in her own words, a very horrible, evil being. Chile! I don't think I could have said it better myself. By 2022, Crystal had finally filed for divorce. And once she did that, this woman started documenting everything. Because at this point, she already understood nobody was going to protect her unless she built the case herself. 2023, she posted online, plain as day, that if anything ever happened to her, everybody already knew who did it. August of 2024, she wrote that she was terrified for her life and for her children's lives, and that she was posting specifically to leave a paper trail. Not hinting, not being dramatic, leaving a paper trail. A few weeks later, a still from her Ring camera with her own words underneath it, telling this man to stay away, calling him what he was, a sick man. Y'all, she said all of this out loud, in writing publicly for over a year. Friends filed their own statements too. Her counselor, her own children, all of them saying the same thing, that this woman was terrified and that everyone around her could see it. By September of 2024, a judge finally granted her a permanent protective order. The same morning, her divorce was finalized. Crystal posted that she had gotten blessed that day. She thought it was over. It was not over. On September 12th, Crystal posted one more time. Dude, please leave me alone. It's over. Move on with your life. Please. Respectfully. That was the last thing she ever wrote. September 13th, a Friday morning, Crystal was back at the Spalding County Courthouse. Not for the divorce this time. Tom had a hearing that day on forgery charges. The judge issued a warrant, but instead of arresting him right there, the judge allowed him to turn himself in the following Monday night. The hearing ended. Crystal walked out of the courthouse alone and headed to her car, parked facing north on 6th Street, near the intersection with East Solomon, in broad daylight, in full view of the same building that had just finalized her protection from this man. Tom was already outside waiting in a second vehicle. He pulled up beside her. He fired multiple rounds through the passenger side window into the car where she was sitting. Deputies stationed at the front of the courthouse heard the shots and responded within seconds. Tom drove off immediately, refusing to stop for the marked units now behind him. When they finally boxed him in a few blocks away, he turned the gun on himself. Crystal did not survive. The Spalding County coroner confirmed it within hours. Crystal Evans, 44 years old, dead at the scene. Griffin police named their suspect fast, Tom Mallory, her ex-husband, the same man she had been posting about publicly for over a year. By September 14th, the day after, he was formally charged. Murder, first-degree forgery, third-degree forgery, possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime. He was still alive at that point, recovering at Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta from the gunshot wound he had given himself. Investigators confirmed what Crystal had been saying the whole time. This was not the first time deputies had been called out to that house. Records show multiple domestic violence calls over the years. On at least one occasion, Tom Mallory had actually been arrested. He posted bond and walked right back into her life. Now, y'all, I want you to sit with that phrase for a second. Posted bond. That is the entire system working exactly the way it was designed to work, and it still was not enough to keep this man away from her. I said what I said. By the time all of this hit the news, Griffin was not a quiet town anymore. This story spread fast online, on the local news, in group chats, on Facebook, everywhere. People who had watched Crystal post her fears for over a year now had a name, a charge sheet, and a whole lot of questions about how this was allowed to happen at all. Every fear Crystal had documented, every post, every affidavit, every warning, it was all sitting there in black and white, matching up with exactly what investigators were now confirming. This woman had told the truth the entire time, and it still was not enough to save her.
Precious says she will hold a rally for justice Wednesday and a vigil for her mother on Thursday.
Precious was not waiting around for anybody to hand her closure. She was already organizing a rally for justice and planning a vigil to honor her mother before the week was even over. Now that, y'all, that is a daughter who understood exactly what she was up against and had no intention of letting it go quietly. Now, normally, this is where I walk y'all through an actual trial. The evidence, the days in court, watching a jury make up their mind. Except that never happened here. Tom Mallory never stood trial for what he did to Crystal Evans. Not because a jury let him off, not because some lawyer worked an angle, because something else got there first. But let's back up for a second, because there's a difference y'all need to notice. Remember 2019? Remember how he got arrested and posted bond that same day and walked right back into her life like nothing had happened? This time, there was no bond. Sir, not this time. A murder charge sitting on top of the forgery charges meant this man was staying exactly where deputies put him, guarded in a hospital bed, while prosecutors built their case and while the whole town of Griffin waited to see what would happen next. 5 days after Crystal died, her family and her community showed up at that same courthouse, not for a hearing this time, but to be seen and to be heard. That is exactly what it feels like, y'all. Fighting for someone and getting shooed away every single time, right up until it is too late to matter. Precious stood right there and made her position clear. She had no sympathy left for her father, none, and she had every intention of getting her mother justice one way or another. Meanwhile, at Grady Memorial, Tom Mallory's condition was not improving. Griffin residents were left in a strange kind of limbo, watching a man who had never once faced Crystal in a courtroom and now might never have to. For the first time in this entire relationship, Tom Mallory did not get to just walk away. He did not get the ending anybody expected either. On September 28th, Tom Mallory died at Grady Memorial Hospital. Not from a trial, not from a sentence, from the same self-inflicted gunshot wound he gave himself the day he killed her, moved from the ICU into hospice until his body finally gave out. The county coroner confirmed it himself. No parole hearing, no appeal, no courtroom for Crystal's family to sit in and finally exhale.
Griffin police confirmed
Just gone.
Domestic violence.
Mom literally called the.
Now, before that happened, Sheriff Daryl Dix had already gone on Facebook to explain at length why none of this was on his deputies.
Dix says, quote, "Do improvements need to be made to the law? Yes, they do. Maybe it wasn't a deputy or my agency that failed. Maybe it was the law itself."
He also called it, in his own words, a toxic relationship, one where deputies could not always tell who started what. Now, I want y'all to notice something. A woman posting for over a year that a man is going to kill her is not the same thing as two people who just do not get along. Okay. Crystal's family says a friend asked a court clerk to arrange an escort for her that day. The sheriff's office says surveillance shows she walked right past deputies in that lobby and never asked for help at all. I am going to be honest with y'all. I was not in that lobby and neither were you. So I cannot tell you with 100% certainty which version is exactly right. Here is what I can tell you. Either a request got made and it fell through the cracks somewhere between a clerk and a deputy, or nobody thought to offer an escort to a woman who had spent over a year publicly begging for protection from the man now waiting right outside. Pick whichever one bothers you more, because honey, they are both bad.
Not once did you offer your condolences, sympathy, or anything for my mom. That post was to clean his face, to clear his name.
Precious did not receive that Facebook post the way the sheriff probably hoped she would. Not once, she said, did that man offer her family condolences. Not once did he check on them. That whole post was not sympathy. That post was damage control dressed up as an explanation. And Crystal was not some rare isolated case either. Georgia lost over 1,700 people to domestic violence in a single 10-year stretch, and guns did most of that killing. So when I tell y'all this keeps happening, I am not exaggerating for the sake of a story. I am telling you the truth because Crystal already tried to tell you herself, and it still was not enough. Her family did not stop at being angry either. They turned all of it into Crystal's Law, an actual piece of proposed legislation aimed at closing the exact gap that let this happen in the first place, because somebody had to do something with all that anger. And Crystal's family decided it was going to be them. Crystal Evans was 44 years old. She built her own career, one closing at a time, helping other families find their own front doors. She raised a daughter who clearly has her fire in her. She never met a stranger, and she loved on her cats like they were her own children. She had just gotten free. That party she was planning after the divorce, after the protective order, after finally getting a piece of paper that told her this was over, she never got to have it. Lord, have mercy. There is something about a woman who spent her whole career helping other people find a safe place to land, who could not find that same safety for herself, no matter how hard she fought for it. Precious still has to carry all of this, but she also gets to carry every single thing her mother taught her about documenting the truth, about not shrinking herself just to keep somebody else comfortable, about fighting even when the system does not fight back for you. Crystal spent the last year of her life leaving a paper trail, post after post, statement after statement, so that somebody somewhere would finally believe her. Somebody should have believed her sooner. But y'all, we believe you, Crystal. Rest well. Now I need y'all to drop something in the comments for me. If a friend asking a court clerk for an escort is not enough to get somebody protected sitting right there in a courthouse, then what exactly is a protective order actually protecting? I want to hear your honest answer, not the polite one. If this story got you some type of way, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because we've got a whole community over here that shows up for women like Crystal every single time. And if you want to actually do something with that anger, look up Crystal's Law and see where it stands. Crystal Evans documented her own truth for over a year so that somebody would finally believe her. We heard you, Crystal. We're still listening.